Hello, everyone. I was going to get into my X-Wing build here and explain some of the things I did and why. So this is a Bandai kit, the 1/48 scale moving edition. So the cockpit, the main console here, was stripped down of all detail and was all scratch built. Using for the hoses, guitar string, and the little silver hoses there. Those are also guitar strings. These right here, these little silver ones, those are guitar string, all shaped and bent. The reason why I like the Bandai kit, because the cockpit is sectional, and it made it easier for me to do the hoses in the back here. When it's a one piece and at this scale, it's very hard. So all this is scratch built using guitar string, which I'll show you the various ones I used. Even those little silver ones on the top of the, I guess you call it the main computer. That's all guitar string. The little coiled wire on the targeting computer right there, that's actually stripped from electrical wire. So that's a little copper wire that I just spooled around a piece of round plastic rod. But all the detail is, luckily I have a ton of photo etch, because you can see right there on that little silver box, the little two circle things right there. That's all extra photo etch I've had. Luckily I've done, used to do into military modeling, even the hydraulics there for lifting the cockpit. The two pieces on the top of the rods, those are pieces of a photo etch also. So then let's talk about the type of build. So there's movie accurate, and I like to do what I consider kind of like a life accurate, like what would a spaceship or airplane or something have. So you can see down in there, there's like a throttle handle on the right side of the cockpit there, and a little red lever, that could be like an ejection lever or something. So on the main center console, where the main center there, that where your main screen would be, that silver part, that's a photo etch piece. So it's all lighted, so it'll light up. So in that piece right there, that's actually a square styrene stock that I boxed it out, so it raises the detail, gives it more a three-dimensional look versus just being flat and painted silver, right? And all these little silver buttons are actually flat styrene stock that I cut, into little squares and pick which ones that match. So that's how I did all the little, get that in focus, square buttons there, and then you see this black piece on the top center. That's a wider piece of stock that I just scribed squares into, right? And I try to mimic the New Hope, but I threw extra pieces in there, like on the side panels of the controls. You see the little yellow and blue blocks. That's just to throw some depth into the model, right? To give it some character. So that's all scratch built. Like I said, all the detail was sanded, except for the center and the sides where you see the holes that's all photo etch, just with added detail on it. The seat here is actually from 3D Falcon. It was a 1/48 scale. He can do a 1/48 scale cockpit, but at that scale in printing, the detail was way too fine, so I didn't even use it. I gave me great references to detail and stuff, but I used the seat, but I wanted it to look more like a fighter jet seat in a way, so I just kept the padding, and I scratch built, the back and the sides, and when you glue it on, it actually gives it depth, because the padding looks like it's tucked, like the cushion was tucked, and you see that separation between the padding and the frame of the seat itself. And then I did the control flight stick right there, which actually this is for a customer, and he was wanting the pilot to be able to come out. So I was going to do one where the handle is stuck in the pilot's hand, and then after you pull them out, this was going to be able to be placed in replacement with a magnet. But he decided to simplify it. So actually, the lower portion of the control stick will be cut off. So and just the upper part would be mounted in the pilot's hand. So let's talk about. Like I said, there's movie build, exact movie copy build, and what I like to think is like real life. So the engine detail, excuse me, on in the movie and on kits, even studio scale, is to me lacking of detail. But I understand people want to replicate the movie exactly, but as a static model, I'd want it to look realistic. So what excuse me. So what I did here was I had to cut a hole in the wings, okay, and then I went and purchased some resin engines. So these here are from a German, I believe it's the MiG. I think it's the 29. It's the fighter jet that the Germans came up with. So when you're doing this, when you're doing parts like this, here's a trick. So a 1/48 scale, because in the actual studio model they use Phantom engines. Some people don't realize, like if I was to use a 1/48 scale Phantom engine, it would not fit in this wing. They're gigantic, and the reason of that is an actual Phantom engine takes up a huge portion of the fuselage. In retrospect, the X-Wing engines are much smaller because there's 4 of them. So a 1/48 scale Phantom engine actually works great for a 1/29 scale, maybe a 1/24 scale X-Wing. I know it works for the 1/29 because I have one, and I have a 1/48 scale Phantom engine, and it's a perfect match. And so I cut these down and notched them out to fit in there, okay? And then I'm going to have to build a little wall right here. See the void? And that'll have a paneling with some, hydraulic wires and fuel lines and stuff like that. And it'll all go to the various parts of the engine to make it more realistic. And then another thing that I do a little different, I like to take the time to make my parts stand out. So like on the intake blades or fans, as some will call it, people like to just make it one color and just weather the hell out of it. I like to do individual to make the parts stand out. And so I did a titanium and some silver, and it'll get weathering. And then, as I was talking about, scaling wise, if you're going to do aftermarket parts, so for like the exhaust can, even on the Bandai, very plain. So I purchased these. You can see the weathering in there. These are 1/48, 1/72 scale Phantom exhaust cans. And they work perfectly. They're a perfect size for the Bandai and even the fine mold kit. And see the detail inside, with the weathering. So the weathering, it's actually a magnesium color on the outside, and on the inside, I used the primer white, and then I used burnt umber oil, and then lamp black. And on each of the ribbing, I did the lamp black first, and then in between, in the little recesses area, I did the burnt umber. And then I just took a Q-tip no, actually my brush with mineral spirits. So you have to use a dull coat. Sorry, let me get that in focus. I don't know why it's not focusing right now. But you have to use a dull coat before you do any of that. And then I just dipped a brush in mineral spirits and just really thinned it down. And all the black and burnt umber sits in the recesses and some high spots. And it gives it a really nice burnt tone to it. So on the inside, so this exhaust can, on the Bandai, on this part back here where it's the whitish color, that is actually fine molds. So and I picked that because the one on the Bandai is too squarish looking, did not flow very well. Luckily, I have a ton of spare different model parts and stuff, and I have a bunch of fine mold X-Wing parts, and so that really worked really well. And then to diffuse the light, because in the New Hope, the exhaust, the flame or heat from the engine is a pinkish color. So I purchased pink LEDs, 5-volt with resistors from Evan Design. And I'm new to lighting, and those things are wonderful because you don't need a circuit board. They already have resistors, and you can tie them all together to your power source. So, so that works out really well. And and with the frosted paper on the inside, it diffuses the light, and it turns out really great. Unfortunately, I had it hooked up because I was showing the guy I was building it for how it looked, and it looks really good. So on the rest of it, I had to tear apart the motor assembly, and this is the mounting for the wings, and these used to go on there so the wings would clip on. Well, that wouldn't work with the resin engines. It wouldn't allow me to notch it out and put the resin engines, so I had to cut all these off and stuff, and so I have to directly glue them, and they won't clip on like they're originally supposed to, which is really no big deal. So that is where it's at as far as, I did doing some new techniques on the back canopy here. I did the hairspray over the primer coat, and then I did the base coat on top of that. And with the hairspray technique, you can wet the surface, and with a toothpick or fine brush, really does an awesome chipping effect, which I'll do a video on that once I get to that. I already tried that on some pieces because it's the first time for me doing that, and it just worked great. Now on another main thing, all these little details on here, the little buttons and everything, see how cleanly it looks. All right, I've always had problems. I hate painting tiny details that are on the model. Painting all the little white buttons. And so what I did is I started using this, believe it or not, JB Weld plastic bonder. And I'll explain why. So, I'll mix them up, and then I'll apply it to my model. Then I'll apply the detail, and it takes a little bit of time to dry, so it gives you a lot of time to work with. But any of it that oozes over the side or gets places you don't want, remember, coat everything in a clear coat. So I do dull coat. So even with that JB Weld smeared it all over, all you have to do is take a brush, a fine tip brush and mineral spirits, and it cleans right up, and you won't even know it's there. I mean all these little tiny buttons, because a lot of those pieces moved around, and there was not a lot of, but enough to see, and I just cleared it away with that JB Weld, and that enabled me to get away with doing these fine scratch built details. So I'm gonna in this right there. And on the next one, I'll actually show the engine lit up. You know, I had it hooked up, but I took it off, and I don't want to stop the video right now and then restart it. So on the next one, I'll show you some progress on this stuff here, and on the canopy and stuff like that. So really think about trying this method, you know, because super glue has always been a nightmare, because you try to put the part, you don't touch it in the right part, and the glue's everywhere, and you use debonder, and it could ruin your you know, your paint and stuff. Using this and you know, prep your surface first with dull coat, and then put this, and then if it gets anywhere, you can, believe it or not, you can even use water on a brush. But I started using mineral spirits. Believe it or not, that cleans it away and leaves you with a crisp detail. So I hope this is informative, you know, because all this stuff was scratch built using that method. All this was glued on after it was painted. All this detail was glued on after it was painted with JB Weld, believe it or not. So thank you for your time, and you know, enjoy your model builds, and have a great day. Thank you.